We were astounded as youngsters by the tales of Tarzan and Rudyard Kipling's Jungle Book, which painted a fairly wonderful vision of having animals for an adopted family. However, you won't be as charmed by the related real-life stories. Several feral kids that were discovered cohabitating with animals are listed below, including one of them. In 1954, when Marina Chapman was taken hostage, she was just 4 years old. She was abandoned by her captors in the bush, where she was raised by a troop of Capuchin monkeys. About 1950 was Marina Chapman's birth year. She was removed from her village when she was only 4 years old. Marina must have been abandoned in the Colombian woods by her captors, who must have changed their minds mid-aggression. She grew up with a troop of Capuchin monkeys after making friends with them. Marina acquired self-reliance. As she began watching the monkeys, she discovered that she could pick up the food that the monkeys dropped if she stood beneath the trees where they were eating. Marina walked on all fours like a monkey and slept in tree holes. She lived in the wild for around 5 years. By the time hunters rescued her, she had completely lost her ability to speak. Chapman claims that she was later sold to a cuter brothel. She lived on the streets after making her way out of the brothel. She was later sold into slavery by a mafia family. After being rescued by a neighbor, she eventually relocated to Bradford, Yorkshire, where she is now living with her family. The Girl with No Name is the autobiography of Chapman, who struggled to find a publisher because no one wanted to believe her story. They called into doubt her recollection and veracity. She wrote about many occasions when elderly monkeys helped her in her book. Once, after consuming tamarind, she developed severe food illness and was in danger of dying. She was sobbing in pain when a seasoned monkey, whom she now refers to as Grandpa, led her to murky waters. Marina sipped the water, threw up, then began to feel better. In 1867, Dina Sanichar emerged from a wolf's den. At first, he behaved like a wild beast, ripping off any clothing, consuming food off the ground, and moving about on all fours. Dina finally transitioned from raw meat to prepared food, but she never picked up speech. A small kid was rescued from the Bulandshahr forest in India in 1867 by hunters. A young, wolf-like child was seen by hunters pursuing a pack of wolves into a cave. He was moving like a wolf, crawling on all fours. After killing the wolves, the hunters discovered the youngster asleep inside the cave. He was believed to be around 6 years old when he was saved from the wolves. While residing at an orphanage in Sikandra, he displayed numerous animal habits. He had a practice of chewing on bones to keep his teeth clean. Dina flatly rejected all attempts to dress him, ripping off everything that was put on him. Before passing away, he spent almost 20 years in human company. But all he was able to pick up was how to stand straight, clothe himself, though not without difficulty, and take care of his own cup and plate. He never picked up the language. Additionally, he liked eating raw meat to cook stuff. Dina smoked excessively and developed TB. 1895 saw his passing. Since he was 7 years old, Marcos Rodriguez Pantoja has spent 12 years with wolves. When he was 19 years old, the Guardia Civil of Spain grabbed him and brought him back to human civilization. Marcos struggled to integrate into society and often daydreamed about returning to his pack of wolves. The family of Marcos Rodriguez Pantoja was not wealthy. When he was just 7 years old, his father sold him to a shepherd of goats in the remote Sierra Morena. The man who purchased Marcos previously called a cave home. He showed Marcos how to take care of himself and herd the goats while surviving in the bush. Shortly after, the shepherd passed away, leaving Marcos by himself. But he was able to adapt to the surroundings due to the shepherd's instruction. Between 1953 and 1965, he spent 12 years living in the mountains. Marcos made friends with a small pack of wolves while avoiding human contact. When he was 19 years old, Guardia Civil members in Spain apprehended him and returned him to human civilization. Marcos yearned to return to his pack of wolves since he was unable to adjust to life as a human. Director Oliveras learned about the boy's intriguing tale in 2007. In order to get Marcos' assistance with the story, he located him in the Galician town of Orense. Marcos worked with the director on the filming of his incredible narrative for the following 2 years. Even in the film's final scene, among wolves, he may be seen playing happily with a wolf. Malaya Oksana. The life of Oksana Malaya serves as a fairly convincing example of how upbringing rather than nature predominates. Her drunken parents abandoned her when she was only 3 years old, leaving her outside that night. She instinctively crawled to the first structure that may offer her warmth and protection, the dog kennel. Her disappearance went mostly unnoticed by her parents. She resided in the dog kennel and subsisted on their leftover scraps. Although she may have periodically wandered into her old family home like a stray and must have seen humans at a distance, she was no longer of their species. All meaningful existence was restricted in the kennel. It took a while for Oksana to start acting less and less like a human and more like one of the pack. 5 years later, a neighbor called the police to report that a young girl was being reared by dogs. When she was saved, she was unable to speak and was moving like a dog while crawling on all fours. If a youngster does not acquire language skills by the age of 5, it is almost hard for them to do so later in life. Living in a facility for people with mental disabilities, Oksana Malaya is approximately 34 years old. Surprisingly, though, she doesn't spend much time with her own pet dog. She takes care of the farm animals. She speaks without rhythm and with a flat, soulless tone. Because Oksana had some childlike speech before she was abandoned, she was able to regain her ability to speak. She was taught how to walk straight, eat with her hands, and, most importantly, communicate like a normal human being at an orphanage school. She has the mental capacity of a 6-year-old and a limited tolerance for boredom, according to experts who have had the opportunity to visit and observe her in Ukraine. She enjoys being the center of attention, despite the fact that she can follow instructions well. She hides things like a dog with a bone when she is offered something. Jungle girl from Cambodia. Police and a man claiming to be the woman's father reported that a woman who vanished in the northeastern Cambodian jungles as a young child had been located 19 years later. Sal Lu, a village policeman who claimed to be her father, said the woman, known as Rakham Panjing, does not speak any understandable languages. Sal Lu said that a scar on his daughter's right arm helped him to identify her. According to Chia Buntoyun, a deputy provincial police commissioner in Ratnakiri province, about 200 miles northeast of the Cambodian capital, Phnom Penh, Rakham Panjing, then 8 years old, vanished in 1988 while grazing buffalo in a rural area. Her family claims she was discovered on January 13th in a village called Oyedeo, roughly 70 kilometers to the east of the provincial capital, roaming through the jungle like a monkey. Her family's hut has been transformed into a must-see attraction by the villagers of Oyedeo, a community of 100 people who have simply given her the moniker Jungle Woman. Dozens of residents and media have stopped by to take a look at her from inside. Many people think that wild children only appear in myths and fairy tales. They may be uncommon. However, there are true feral youngsters. More than 100 incidents of children being reared by animals and being left alone in the wild have been verified. These feral kids have developed characteristics of forest animals as a result of spending so much time away from human society and adapting to the need to survive in the wild. That was for today. Thank you for staying with us. Don't forget to like our video and subscribe to our channel.